feel like if I asked a bunch of people if they remember Zoom, there's a pretty decent list of things they think of before the 2006 family film with that title. You got the software, the Flash villain, the PBS Kids show if you're old. But no, there is another Zoom out there, and it's a superhero film starring actor and comedian Tim Allen and some other people that we'll talk about later. This movie came at this interesting time where live-action theatrical family films were kind of the norm. Nowadays, it's a bit of a dying genre, though recently we did have the movie If. I mean, there were a bunch of them in 2006 alone. Shaggy Dog, Hoot, RV, Night at the Museum, How to Eat Fried Worms. Check out my video on it. You never know what to expect with these movies. Sometimes they become bona fide hits and branch off into sequels and spin-offs. Other films, even good ones, aren't as fortunate, though, thanks to DVDs and reruns on TV, still become cult classics. Then there are some that are just so astronomically bad that you wonder how and why they were even made. Seriously, have you seen RV? Horrible film. Anyway, I bring all this up because Zoom is a part of this genre, and with some pretty decent names attached to it, you'd think it would be brought up in conversations a lot more, but it never really is. Join me, Mr. Nostalgia, as I review the 2006 superhero family comedy film, Zoom.
They may look like ordinary kids.
So cute.
But what makes them different will make them heroes.
Nice toss. Why don't you get a juice box and a Rice Krispie treat?
On August 11th,
We face an imminent threat.
Hope you got an army behind you.
prepare for a new age of superhero.
Tucker, put the cow back.
Sorry.
Zoom. Rated PG. In theaters everywhere August 11th. Visit nick.com/Zoom for games and more.
Zoom released in theaters on August 11th, 2006. It's directed by Peter Hewitt, who you might know for directing Garfield, and written by Adam Rifkin, who you might know for writing Underdog. Aren't we off to a great start? Its cast is pretty stacked. We got Tim Allen, Courtney Cox, Rip Torn, Spencer Breslin, who used to be in like every kids movie back then. Chevy Chase is in the movie, which is why there aren't any black people in it. Like I said, a decent cast. The movie is actually loosely based on the children's book Amazing Adventures from Zoom's Academy. Even if this wasn't the case though, the idea of an academy for kids with superpowers isn't anything new. For starters, obviously, I have to mention the X-Men, but even without mentioning any IPs, Disney released a movie of similar premise a year prior in the form of Sky High, which is one of my favorite movies ever. But Zoom is different enough plot-wise to stand on its own and not be viewed as a copycat film. So the question is it actually good enough to be put in the same conversation as Sky High? The answer is no. I'm not even gonna have you wait until the end of the video to find that out. Y'all saw the title. But nevertheless, we're gonna be talking about it anyway, so let's get into it. One thing I gotta point out about this movie before we truly get into it is the fact that the producers have like this weird obsession with Smash Mouth, because they use not one, not two, not three, but 6 songs from them, including the one that's playing right now called So Insane. I'm not that mad at it though, as I do like Smash Mouth, plus it honestly helps give the movie more of a nostalgia vibe, which, spoiler alert, is one of the only things that helped me get through it. While that song is playing, via a comic book styled flashback montage, we start to learn about a superhero team that existed 30 years ago called Team Zenith, led by brothers Jack Shepard, aka Captain Zoom, and Connor Shepard, aka Concussion. Their main goal was to protect the world from threats, and they did so until the military decided to enhance the brothers using something called Gamma-13 radiation. While Zoom got faster and stronger, the Gamma made Concussion lose his mind, and he turned on his team, even wiping them out. Zoom ended up losing his powers, and even worse, his brother. So now he's retired from the superhero life, and instead has become a full-time mechanic. While making a milkshake, Jack notices a woman dressed in green crossing the street while a car is approaching her, and it's revealed that all of this is just an attempt to lure Zoom back into the superhero business. Chevy Chase, aka original Zenith Project scientist Dr. Ed Grant, converses with Jack about helping them form a new Zenith team, as a new threat is emerging and currently, he's the only superhero left. Jack isn't all that interested though, but Dr. Grant wasn't really asking, so he hits him with a dart which knocks him out. After that, we get a little montage of some of the superpowered kids that they're thinking of recruiting for the team. We have little 6-year-old Cindy Collins, played by Zeke and Luther star Ryan Newman, who actually goes by Ryan Whitney now, and after launching a kid into a tree, it's obvious her power is super strength. Then there's Summer Jones, played by Kate Mara, who looked super familiar to me, then I realized she played Sue Storm in the 2015 Fantastic Four movie. Yeah, maybe it's best she doesn't appear in any more superhero films. She's been in arguably 2 of the worst ones ever made. I actually haven't even seen Fan 4 Stick, mostly because I'm a big Fantastic Four fan and don't want to experience pain. Anyway, her ability is mainly telekinesis with a hint of emphatic senses. Yeah, she's Jean Grey, basically. I'm also an X-Men fan. Didn't The Last Stand come out this year? Huh, yeah, it did. As well as Superman Returns. Not a great year for superhero movies. 2007, on the other hand, every early to mid 2000s family movie has that one character that's just too cool for school. And this one is Dylan West, played by Michael Cassidy, who has the power of invisibility. Lame. He gave off War and Peace vibes. I thought he'd have like fire powers or something. Oh wait, isn't the teacher Biff from Back to the Future? What's up, man? Last but not least, we have Tucker Williams, played by Spencer Breslin, known for movies like Here. Just look at the screen. He's been in too many to say. I'm not sure why, but this dude always seems to appear in movies with Tim Allen. Anyway, his powers are... Okay. Jack wakes up and finds out that he's being paid $500K if he chooses to help, which is something he wishes he was told before he was hit with a dart. He would have easily agreed to help. The lady in the dress from earlier is Marsha Holloway, who's a psychologist on the Zenith Project and a big fan of Jack/Zoom. She even has all of his comic books. And while Jack is flattered, what he really wants to know is if she still has that green dress that she wore earlier. Yeah, Jack's kind of a jerk, but given what happened to his brother and team, I'll kind of allow it. The 2 Zenith workers have 10 kids lined up, and their job, along with Jack, is to choose the best ones for the mission. We see some interesting powers, to say the least. One girl can blink really fast. One of them farts. That'll get the kids laughing, I'm sure. One of them has super boogers. Come on, man. Whoa, that is scary. This dude look like the Capri Sun thing. Respect the crouch. Respect it. Like, ew, that CGI is horrible. Anyway, the kids are picked, and it's the main 4 from the opener. What a surprise. Dylan starts hitting on Summer because of course he does.
And you could stop hitting on me entirely.
No, I can't do that. You and I are destiny.
Oh, brother. Someone show this guy Johnny Bravo so he can learn some better lines. The kids are introduced to Jack, and they aren't super impressed, especially since his pep talk wasn't very peppy.
I spent a lot of time here at Camp Secret. Do you know what? It pretty much ruined my life.
Later, we see what threat exactly is on its way. Jack's brother Concussion has managed to find his way back, and he's coming straight to Jack in 8 days. General Larrabee says that the kids have to be in fighting shape by the time he comes back, or else he'll have no choice but to give them the Gamma-13 radiation, the same radiation that accelerated Jack's powers but also ruined his brother's mind. However, this seems to have been decided behind the rest of the team's back, as Dr. Holloway is adamant on not giving the kids the radiation. Meanwhile, to get him back into the superhero mindset, Dr. Grant shows Jack his superhero suit that he never got a chance to fully wear, and this tactic might have just worked. The next day, Holloway shows the kids all of the old Zoom comics to show why Jack, despite their first impression of him, is a great man.
Faster than Quicksilver, the Flash, and Superman, all together.
Okay, hold on. Hold your horses there, lady. Ain't no way Zoom was faster than Quicksilver, Flash, and Superman. I guarantee you he wasn't even faster than Flash. Yeah, but in the TV show. No. I'm talking about real Flash, comic Flash. Matter of fact, I'm not even talking about Barry. Wally is a faster character than him. That man was able to save 500,000 people from a nuclear blast within 1 microsecond. Zoom ain't doing that. He's just not. Sorry, this is like one of the only times I get to talk about superheroes on this channel. Tucker and Cindy excitedly run to Jack and ask him if it's really true, and although he missed that was his past, he says that he's no longer a superhero. And they aren't superheroes either.
We're superheroes? Yes!
We're definitely white kids, I'll tell you that.
Okay, this is legitimately the only funny joke in the movie. Like, that's actually hilarious. Since they're on the topic of superheroes, Cindy asks if they'll also get cool names or suits, and Jack, again, reiterates that this is a military installation. They don't get to do the fun stuff like other superhero teams. Dylan scoffs at the idea of Jack being the one to train them, which makes everyone else walk away. He's got a point though. If Jack is supposed to be the team leader, he's gonna have to make improvements. A lot of improvements. Training commences, and yeah, this movie was obviously meant to be seen in 3D. At least it's not as bad as Spy Kids though. Well, I don't know. They might be neck and neck now. You know what's funny? One thing that I, for whatever reason, thought about this movie was that all the kids were Jack's. Like, they were his own children, and it was just a family of superheroes. Am I the only one that remembered it being like that? That Mandela effect is real, man, I'm telling you. Some more training happens in the scene sent to Punk Rock 101 by Bowling for Soup. This song actually kind of slaps. Y'all might not know this about me, but I'm actually a big punk rock / pop punk fan. Blink 182, All Time Low, Sum 41, Avril Lavigne, Simple Plan. I say all of this to say that as much as I do not like this movie, the soundtrack for it kind of bangs, even though the Smash Mouth tracks were decent. As the days have gone on, the kids are starting to have more fun, and Jack is slowly starting to get better at this teaching thing. They take the kids to get some protective gear as Jack reunites with his old robot friend, Mr. Pibb. He asks him if the Rambler they used to use back in the day is still in the hangar, and when he says yes, Jack asks for the keys. To spice up the lives of the kids and to, I guess, have a little fun with them, Jack decides to take them on a little field trip. And yeah, that is not a Rambler. That's a whole UFO that apparently was taken from Area 51. The gang starts flying in it, and yeah, this scene's kind of fun, I guess. Except for the part where Tucker kidnaps a cow because he's hungry. That's actually insane when you think about it. But I guess his request for food works because they actually go to Wendy's. And yeah, I've seen super obvious product placement before, but this scene is just next level. Like, there's this crazy long scene that is more or less just a Wendy's commercial. But man, did it make me want a 4 for 4. I think what makes the scene worse is that there was actually a Wendy's kids meal around the time this movie was released, with Zoom toys. And you can always tell it's a Wendy's kids meal because their toys are so fugazi, bruh. Shout out to Fast Food Toy Reviews. That's who y'all see on the screen right now. But yeah, dude, these aren't even toys, bro. They're activities. That's how you know this movie flopped. They couldn't even afford a McDonald's Happy Meal spot. Even Squirrel Boy got a McDonald's Happy Meal spot. You know how crazy that is? Shout out to Wendy's though. I do genuinely like that place. The gang returns from their field trip and are greeted by an angry Dr. Holloway, who is upset that Jack took the kids to get fast food instead of preparing them for their upcoming battle. And some dialogue is exchanged. I don't know. The word gallivanting is used. That night, Jack is trying to catch him shut-eye, but is awoken by Cindy, who apparently had a nightmare and wants to sleep in Jack's room. Jack is like, nah fam, I'm good. But when the waterworks start happening, that's when he eventually caves and lets her stay on the couch. The two get to talking about if she's truly different, and Jack assures her that while she is different, she's a good different. Stated this before, but it's even more obvious now. Jack is totally adapting to being a mentor. And I think part of this has to do with him never having anyone to act like this for him when he was a kid being raised in the Zenith Project. So now is kind of his chance to correct that. I don't think it's fair to say that he's just straight up a bad dude. Lots of stuff has happened to him after all. What we're seeing now is probably closer to who Jack really is. Or something like that, man. I don't know. This movie's really bad. The next day rolls around and the kids are introduced to their mission simulator. And not gonna lie, I have no memory of this scene, and I watched this movie only like a few weeks ago. The goal is to stop the simulator by pressing the red button in the center, which will be hard to do considering they're gonna be nailed with paintballs. This scene starts yet another training montage, showing how the kids are adapting to their abilities. Dylan has even learned how to make other objects invisible, not just himself, which is actually very useful. Yeah. Like I said, this was 2006 and seeing movies in 3D was still cool. After all the training, Jack gives the kids some snacks. And hold on, are those Little Debbie's? I'm a fiend for those things, man. Honey buns, zebra cakes, Swiss rolls, you name it. Those things slap. And these ungrateful brats are mad about how he went about training everyone. Like, I guess he could have handled things better, but he certainly made an attempt. I thought they were making progress. Why is everyone leaving? He took y'all to get Wendy's, don't y'all forget? If he didn't truly care about you guys, he would have taken y'all to like Arby's or something. Everyone's pretty mad at him, that is besides Dylan, who's been sent to a containment room since he keeps trying to escape. So Jack pays him a visit and tries to talk to him, sharing stories from his past, and eventually he lets it drop that he has a brother. While sharing that story, he realized Dylan's been locked up long enough, so he requests to have him let out.
This is Mr. Grant. You can release Dr. West. I'm sorry. This is Dr. West. Could you release Mr. Grant?
Okay, you want us to release...
No, don't release Dr. Grant. Release Mr. West.
But you just said that we...
Oh my gosh, this might be the most pointless joke I've ever seen in any movie. Actually, speaking of his character, throughout the entire movie, the kids are just like unnecessarily mean to him. Like, yeah, I'm not the biggest fan of his character, but I don't think he deserves some of the stuff he's gotten in this movie. He's like a punching bag, and there's no better scene that represents that than this scene right here, where the kids find him in an outdoor survival simulator and just start mashing buttons. And the scene lasts for like 3.5 minutes, and besides showing what the kids are up to while Jack talks to Dylan, it's so incredibly useless and just gives off deleted scene energy. And as you might expect, it's not funny either. While in her office, Holloway overhears Jack talking to Dylan about the radiation that boosted his powers, but reassures him that they aren't going to do that to him and the other kids, and that's why they brought Jack in the first place, to encourage their powers naturally. Eventually, they get on the topic of Summer, since it's obvious that Dylan likes her. He tells Dylan to start thinking about her to see if he can find her. He's not sure what he means at first, but listens to him anyway. And as it turns out, he's unlocked a new ability, and he's able to go through all of the rooms in the building until he finds Summer dancing in her room. Okay, and see, this is something I don't get, because, okay, you probably shouldn't do that. Like, he found her, cool, but instead of just turning away, he kind of just stares at her dancing. That's weird, right? And Jack doesn't even really comment on him just like spying on Summer, even if he unlocked this new ability. And the most confusing part is there's a moment where it seems like she felt a presence in her room, since that's part of her powers, kinda. So I'm thinking, oh, this is where everything is gonna start crashing down and the dynamic of the team is shifted and Summer's gonna chew him out for spying on her. Nah, they like never acknowledge it. Which is why I'm confused, because if you're not gonna make a subplot out of it, then why show this little frame where she obviously felt like somebody was watching her? Spoiler alert, but there's literally a scene where he used this new power in front of her, and you'd think she'd put it together, but no. Maybe I'm just stupid, but like, I'm really confused by this whole thing. It's almost like something got rewritten or deleted. Dylan's new ability is called Mindsight, and apparently it's a power that someone on Jack's old team used to have, which is why he tried to see if Dylan had it. This leads to a conversation where Jack starts getting into his past regarding how his entire team was wiped out by concussion. Eventually, Dylan puts it together that concussion was actually Jack's brother, and this comes as a bit of surprise to both him and Dr. Holloway. We get this scene of Jack reminiscing on his old team, but also thinking about his new one and the potential they have. And this scene could have been so much cooler if this movie was actually cool. We want to talk about something that is cool though. Intermission time before we get into the third act, but remember earlier in the video when I played that promo that featured nick.com/zoom? Would you believe that using the Internet Archive, I was able to explore that site? It was crazy, bruh. Even though I never went on this specific part of the Nick website as a kid, I still felt a wave of nostalgia because, you know, you don't really see stuff like this anymore. Everything is just turned into apps now. Some of the site didn't work, obviously, but you were still able to check out the little descriptions that they made for each character, and you could even still access the part of the site that talks about the sweepstakes. Basically, one grand prize winner and their family would receive round-trip airfare for either New York or Hollywood, depending on what you choose. Hey man, I was born in New York, had a lot of family there, would visit like every year. Choose Hollywood. You can go to New York anytime, depending on where you live. Hollywood though? Come on now. Pretty cool sweepstakes though. Hey, if there's anybody out there who actually won this, please let me know in the comments below. Don't lie. Nobody likes a liar, man. In the next scene, Jack comes in with a squad of people that'll be taking the kids' measurements for their superhero suits. On top of that, he plans on giving the kids more one-on-one training time, starting with control and execution. As the middle by Jimmy Eat World starts playing, we get, yes, another training montage, and I'm getting tired of these. This time though, we get to see that real improvement is being made, not just with the kids' abilities, but with how they're interacting with each other in general. They're a lot happier than they were before, and a lot of this is due to Jack's change of heart. They're even able to complete the training simulation from earlier, which isn't as cool as the one from Sky High, but it's fine. Jack talks to Holloway about how if they had someone who truly cared about him and his brother back when they were kids, things would have ended up differently for them. At first, I thought he was going to use himself as an example as one of those people, but instead he actually uses Dr. Holloway, which makes a lot of sense. I mean, even since the beginning of the movie, it's been obvious that she cares a lot about these kids. And even though it took a while, Jack is starting to as well. This becomes even more obvious when the two of them throw a little makeshift school dance for everyone. While Cindy is dancing with the robot, Dylan is putting the moves on Summer. He even made a little piece to attach to her necklace. And Tucker? I don't know. I guess he couldn't give him anything to do in this scene, so we don't even see him until Rip Torn and the other general guys come in to shut the dance down. Unfortunately though, that's not the only thing they plan on doing. Jack spots them carting away some of the gamma radiation to presumably inject into the kid. They clearly aren't where the general wants them to be, training wise, so he's decided to accelerate the process. Jack isn't having that though, considering what it did to his brother. So he wakes them all up so they can come with him. And where does she get that costume from? While trying to escape, the topic of superhero names gets brought up again since the kids saw some old graffiti with the names of the old members. Eventually they settle on Mega Boy for Tucker, Princess for Cindy, Houdini for Dylan, and Wonder for Summer. Wow, those are all horrible. Houdini isn't even a superhero name, it's a real person's name. That's like me becoming a superhero and naming myself LeBron. Like, what? It's actually kind of cool though. I would totally do that. Suddenly, Dylan starts to feel a bit woozy as his new powers are starting to activate. He goes through a bunch of different rooms until he finds the one that actively is displaying the mission. From there, he puts it together what we've known since the beginning of the movie. This whole time, they've been training for the return of Concussion, aka Jack's brother, which is a shock to Jack. So to figure out what's going on, he does some investigating. In the general's office, we overhear that Concussion is on his way, as the dimensional rift is starting to open. I don't know, I guess to defeat him, they sent him to another universe or something. Either I missed the explanation or they just skipped over it. Both are entirely possible. Jack confronts Holloway and later the general about what's about to happen. Rightfully so, he's upset that they never told him about his brother being alive. But what upsets him even more is the idea of those kids going out there against Concussion, considering how dangerous he is. The general doesn't plan on listening to him though, so he sends the guards to lock Jack away in the containment room. With an hour left until Concussion makes his return, the scientists start loading in the gamma radiation, all of this being seen by Dylan. The kids start to get worried, especially when Holloway comes in telling the kids that it's time. But then, we get a somewhat kinda but not really interesting plot twist.
Except possibly.
Whoa, she's a Powerpuff Girl, I don't care. The kids use their powers to knock out the guards and run away. Summer goes up to a security guard and raises him to the ceiling, allowing them to access the computers to find where they locked up Jack.
Hey, somebody call for a rescue party with extra cheese?
Man, shut your— Cindy punches down the door and they all explain to Jack that Holloway is actually one of them. A superhero, kinda.
This is like great news. You're like part of the family.
Dudes, escape, remember?
Who is writing these lines? I just want to talk. And like, maybe fight you. An alarm starts blaring, signaling the gang escaping. So while they're trying to get into the UFO, the general and all the other serious military people are commanding the hangar doors to be shut, which obviously complicates their escape.
We're hot to go.
Yes!
Jack gets on the UFO just in time for them to escape, and honestly, the CGI isn't that bad for 2006. Jack requests that he gets a moment alone to talk to his brother, and although they don't want to leave him alone, he's able to convince them. This might have been a good call though, because as soon as Concussion emerges from the dimensional rift, he immediately starts squaring up like he's trying to fight. Jack tries to talk things out, but Connor's too heated to listen. So he hits him with a concussive blast. Oh, that's why his name is Concussion. Connor realizes Jack doesn't have his powers, so that dude just keeps blasting and blasting until he gets distracted by Mr. Pibb, his long-lost friend. This allows the military to get a good lock on Connor to blow that man into smithereens, presumably. But things get complicated when the all-new, all-different Team Zenith pulls up to support Jack. Unfortunate timing though, because a little after this, the military launched a net at Concussion, but he blasted away, knocking it right to where Cindy is. Turns out though, this is exactly what Jack needed to activate his powers. Because as soon as he sees Cindy in danger, he races straight to her, grabbing her in the nick of time. He's a little worried at first, but when Cindy opens up her eyes, he lets out a sigh of relief. Can't be happy for too long though, they still have to take care of Concussion. So, feeling inspired to be a superhero again, Jack races off to grab his costume. And yeah, this stinks. Zoom links back up with his newfound family as they team up to take on Concussion. They all use their abilities to rough him up a little, all of this leading to him getting sucked into Zoom's vortex. The reason why Zoom created this vortex is because earlier in the movie, they figured out that it would be just what they need to reverse the dark effects of the gamma's radiation.
Must save Connor!
What in the Power Rangers? This movie has always been bad, but I feel like it's just gotten cornier as this went on. Must save Connor! Like, man, shut up. Anyway, despite Connor's best efforts to escape the vortex, Zoom is able to close it, which somehow immediately reverts him back to normal. He even apologizes to Jack about what happened and they hug it out. The kiss is crazy. He just tried to wipe y'all out a second ago. I'm all for forgiveness and stuff, but at least let it marinate first before you go around kissing people. I'll talk about it later, but this whole third act was just crazy rushed. All of that build up for one of the lamest final battle scenes I've ever seen. And then everything is just fine. They're all one big happy family. That's how they wrap this up. 3 months pass and we see what the gang is up to now. Cindy's doing her thing at her school play, playing Rapunzel. Her parents are even there to watch. Tucker is using his abilities to cheat at soccer, which should probably get him banned from playing, but whatever. And lastly, Dylan and Summer officially become a couple. Even though they've all gone back to somewhat normal lives, their superhero days are far from over. Matter of fact, they all get an alert saying that they're needed. So they meet up, put their hands in the middle to presumably go on their next mission. Not just as a team, but also as a family. Except for Connor, I guess. I thought he was going to be part of the crew, but I guess not. And no, before you ask, there's no post-credit scene. Thank goodness. I'm sick of this movie. So, final thoughts on Zoom. It's a bad movie. It's a really bad movie. I even said it in the beginning of the video. And I think honestly what makes this movie worse, before I get into specifics, is the fact that Sky High came out a year before this, had a similar plot, but a way smaller budget, and even an arguably smaller cast. Despite this, they did a much better job with the premise. It's not even close. I mean, where do I start? I guess the one thing this movie kind of had going for it is that I didn't hate the characters. They were either non-existent or fine. I actually kind of liked Jack. For most of the movie, he was a jerk, but I feel like he was a likable one. I don't know. The kids were okay. Tucker definitely got the short end of the stick. His only real character trait was that he was chubby, which was pretty common for things made in the 2000s. Summer was kind of Dylan was hit or miss. And I guess Cindy was my favorite out of the four, not because I liked her, just because she's the only one that stood out. But again, I'd much rather have forgettable characters than annoying or bad ones, so I'm not mad at all. I've certainly seen worse characters in movies like this. But everything else is really bad. The plot is super thin, super simple. There's no layers to it, like, at all. A threat is coming, they get kids to train for it, they train and they train and they train and they train, and then he comes and they take him out in under 2 minutes. All that build up for some horrible, weak Saturday morning cartoon type villain. And I'm not even talking about like the good era of Saturday morning cartoons. I'm talking about like the Street Sharks era. I know somebody gonna be in my comments like, what are you talking about? Street Sharks was great. I used to watch it every day. They gave my guy nothing to work with. The movie was rarely ever funny. I could have done without the fart and booger jokes, but given this was a kid's movie made in 2006, I kind of get it. Overall, I just feel like this movie could have been at least decent if there was more effort on fleshing out the story and characters and then just tightening up on the humor. But this movie's lame, man. It's even just pretty boring at times. I think maybe if the final act was wrapped up better, it could have given the movie some extra points, but I'm kind of feeling a light 2 out of 10. I mean, clearly I'm not in the minority with this. The movie has a 4% on Rotten Tomatoes and flopped hard at the box office. Like, it was a generational flop. It was even nominated for a Razzie Award and lost. I don't even know if that's good or bad. Unlike How to Eat Fried Worms, Zoom isn't one of those childhood movies that holds up over time. It feels more like a soulless cash grab than a well thought out movie, and parts of it honestly feel like it was written by AI. And to think, I had to watch this movie multiple times for this video. This does beg the question though, why exactly did I review this movie? And honestly, even How to Eat Fried Worms was an odd movie for me to review, since although it is an older film, it's not connected to Nickelodeon or Disney, which is what I usually do on this channel. Besides being released in the same month, there is something that connects these two movies together that might justify the timing of me covering it. I wonder what it is. Well, worry about it later. If you like this video, please feel free to subscribe, like, all that good stuff. Check out my Patreon for reasons that might tie into why I made this video. And as always, I'm Mr. Nostalgia, and I'm out for now. Peace.